There's a face you've forgotten. You saw it every morning for years. You knew its eyes, its smile, the missing tooth in the school photo. You don't remember the name. You don't remember which morning you stopped looking, but it shaped you. Let me show you what I mean. You're 8 years old. It's a Saturday morning. The house is still asleep. You've poured yourself a bowl of cereal that's mostly sugar, and you're sitting at the kitchen table alone, the way kids do when the world hasn't started yet. Your eyes drift, looking for something to read, the cereal box, the newspaper your dad left out, and then the milk carton. There's a kid on it, about your age. Black and white photo, gap-toothed school picture. Above the photo, 2 words, have you seen me? You don't know this kid. You'll never meet this kid, but somehow, for the rest of your life, you will remember his face. Between 1984 and the mid-90s, the National Child Safety Council printed the faces of missing children on the side of milk cartons in homes across America. By the height of the campaign, more than 700 dairies were participating, and the photographs appeared on hundreds of millions of cartons. They were in kitchens, school cafeterias, diners, hotel breakfast bars. An entire generation of kids ate breakfast next to the faces of children who had vanished, and nobody ever explained it to us. We just absorbed it, quietly, with our cornflakes. This isn't a video about milk cartons. It's a video about the fears that raised us, the ones we forgot we had, the ones nobody warned us would shape us, and the strange, quiet way they're still operating inside us. Even now, decades later, long after the fears themselves disappeared. The fear came in pieces. A milk carton at breakfast, a PSA between cartoons, a kid getting into a stranger's car, the sudden cut to black, a voiceover saying, "Don't talk to strangers." McGruff the crime dog telling you to take a bite out of crime, a school assembly with a uniformed officer holding up a poster of a man in a trench coat. But the strangest thing about it, the thing nobody admits, was that the fear was never specific. Nobody ever told us who the stranger actually was, where he lived, what he wanted. We just knew he existed. He drove a windowless van. He offered candy. He asked you to help find his lost puppy, and if you ever got into his car, you would never come home. So every adult man became potentially the man. The neighbor working in his yard, the guy at the gas station, the dad of the friend you didn't know that well. You were taught to be afraid of strangers, without ever being given a way to know which strangers were the strangers. So you were just afraid of all of them, quietly, all the time. And you knew, somehow you just knew, that if you ever ended up on a milk carton, the entire country would see your face for breakfast and forget you by lunch. Then there was the TV. Weeknights, after dinner, the opening credits started, a synthesizer wail, a foggy graveyard, a man in a long trench coat stepping out of the mist. Robert Stack, join me. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery. Unsolved Mysteries was, technically, a true crime show. What it actually was a weekly delivery system for existential dread to American children. You'd be eating leftovers off a TV tray. Your parents would be on the couch, and for the next hour, you'd absorb stories about people who walked out their front door one Tuesday and were never seen again. Hauntings in suburban houses that looked exactly like yours. Alien abductions in towns that looked exactly like your town. Murders that were never solved. And here's the part that got us. The cases didn't end. A modern crime show wraps it up in 42 minutes. The killer is caught. The mystery is solved. You go to bed. But Unsolved Mysteries was, by definition, unsolved. The episode ended with a phone number on the screen. Robert Stack staring into your soul, asking you, a 9-year-old, to help. The message that burrowed into us week after week was this: there are things in the world that never get answered. Kids who never come home. Killers who are still out there. Ghosts who never leave. And nobody, not the police, not the FBI, not even the show itself, can fix it. Some of those cases are still unsolved today. Real cases, real families still waiting. We absorbed all of that at age 9 with a bowl of ice cream. there was a stretch, roughly 1985 to 1995, when the entire country lost its mind. It started with heavy metal records. The claim was that if you played them backwards, you could hear hidden satanic messages. Then it spread. Dungeons and Dragons was a recruitment tool for the devil. Saturday morning cartoons had occult symbols hidden in the animation. The Procter & Gamble logo, the moon and the stars, was satanic. Daycare workers were running underground rings of ritual abuse, which they were performing on children during nap time. Your mom threw out a record. Your friend wasn't allowed to play D&D anymore. A teacher went on the news in tears, talking about recovered memories. Geraldo Rivera did a primetime special called Devil Worship, exposing Satan's underground. About 20 million people watched it. The thing about being a kid during all this, you couldn't argue with it. You weren't told it was a theory. You were told it was a fact. The man you loved on TV was secretly evil. The cartoon you watched was indoctrinating you. The teenager down the street who wore a Metallica shirt was probably a Satanist. It turned out, of course, that almost none of it was true. There was no satanic conspiracy. The recovered memories were planted by therapists. The metal records were just records. The ritual abuse cases collapsed in court, one after another. Some of the people accused went to prison for crimes that didn't happen. A few of them are still in prison today. But what got into us during those years wasn't the fear itself. It was the discovery that adults can lose their minds, all of them, all at once, and not realize it until years later. And while it's happening, they will be in charge of you. And then, at the very end of it all, came Y2K. For most of 1999, the country prepared for the apocalypse. Not metaphorically, literally. The news ran specials. Books were published. Bunkers were built. The story was simple. Every computer in the world had been programmed with 2-digit years, 99, instead of 1999. And at midnight on January 1st, 2000, they would all interpret 00 as 1900, and everything would break. Planes would fall out of the sky. ATMs would empty themselves. Power grids would fail. Hospitals would lose patient records mid-surgery. The world, basically, would end. Your parents bought bottled water. Your neighbor stocked canned goods. Some people moved to rural cabins. There was a countdown on every news channel. There were drills. There were emergency hotlines. Some people withdrew their entire life savings and slept on top of it. And then the clock struck midnight, and nothing happened. The lights stayed on. The planes stayed in the air. The ATMs worked. January 1st, 2000 was, for almost everyone on Earth, a perfectly ordinary Saturday. And here's the part that haunts me a little. Nobody talked about it again. There was no national reckoning. No wow. We really lost it for a minute there. The fear of the apocalypse, which had occupied an entire year of public attention, just evaporated. By February, nobody mentioned it. By the end of the year, it was a punchline. By 2005, it was forgotten. And that's when I started to notice the pattern. All of these fears, every single one of them, followed the same arc. They appeared. They consumed us. They shaped how we lived. They taught us specific things about the world. And then, one by one, they evaporated. The milk cartons stopped. The PSAs faded. Unsolved Mysteries went off the air. The Satanic Panic ended. Y2K came and went. The fears didn't get resolved. They just stopped being relevant. Society moved on to other fears, and these specific ones became a kind of cultural ghost. Something you only remember if someone reminds you. But here's the thing nobody talks about. You're still wired for them. The vigilance the milk cartons taught you, the instinct to scan a room and locate the exits, that's still there. Every time you walk through a parking garage at night, you're using a survival circuit that was installed in you at age 7 by a dairy company. The unease Unsolved Mysteries gave you, the sense that some things just don't get solved. You still operate on that. You still don't fully trust that endings happen. You still expect the case to stay open. The Satanic Panic taught you that adults can be wrong en masse, and you've never quite trusted authority the same way since. Even now, Even when you are the adult, Y2K taught you that the apocalypse can be sold to you, and most people will buy it. The fears are gone, the wiring is not. What was the fear that haunted you as a kid? The one you'd completely forgotten about until right now? The PSA, the episode, the thing your mom said in a serious voice that you've never been able to shake? Drop it in the comments. The weirder, the more specific, the better. Some of you are going to read those comments and remember things you haven't thought about in 20 years. That's the gift.